Welcome. Today we're going to spend some time conducting a refresher of the book Turn the Ship Around and the Leader-Leader Model. Our key objective during this refresher will be to demonstrate how the Leader-Leader Model can improve our performance when we develop leaders at all levels of the organization. Our target audience for this refresher will be for supervisors and above and selected high potential candidates who are considered leaders in their departments or at the site. A couple of years ago, we were introduced to a new leadership model which was based on a book written by David Marquette, the former commanding officer of the fast attack nuclear submarine USS Santa Fe. The story told by the author demonstrated how he used a different leadership style to ready his crew for deployment and key inspections. The book introduced us to some new terms, including leader-follower, leader-leader, intent-based leadership, competence, control, and clarity, and the ladder of leadership. What is leadership? Typically, when people think about a good leader, they think about someone who has achieved a lot. Achievement is good, but achievement is not leadership. When you have someone who's good at achieving stuff, performance is great as long as they remain in that role. When they leave that role, unless they've done a good job at leadership, performance declines because the performance depended upon that individual. Think about outage performance. Our outage performance isn't resting on one individual to be available 24/7 to be successful. Instead, we have an outage organization and outage managers who sustain excellent performance with or without the outage manager being there. That is leadership. Great leaders embed the ability of people to get stuff done. Leadership is not telling people what to do. There's no one who wants to be told what to do, only environments that support telling people what to do. However, people can slip into that mode when operating in an environment where it's common for people to be told what to do and to do only what they're told. The environment matters a lot. The leader owns the environment. Leadership is called the enabling art, enabling human potential, and you can see that our leadership attributes describe behaviors that enable greatness, engagement, ownership, and leadership. A leader's role is to help people understand what needs to happen and then give them the tools, resources, and clear direction to accomplish what needs to happen. Our goal is to create an environment where people think. Yes, we want compliance with standards and expectations, but not blind compliance. And we don't want them to stop at minimum compliance. We don't achieve excellence by demonstrating minimum compliance. We achieve excellence when everyone is thinking, engaged, and striving for improvement. Distributing control further in the organization is similar to the engagement we talked about when we talk about employees operating above the line. When employees operate above the line, they are engaged and demonstrate leadership, either in job performance, performance improvement, or in problem identification and resolution. We want to create an environment that moves employees from tell me what to do, which is below the line, to ownership. Here's what I'm doing above the line. But it's up to us as leaders to create that environment. There are many risks associated with traditional leadership models, such as the leader-follower. They're dependent upon one person or the leader. But can one person be everywhere simultaneously? They're also dependent upon procedures. But what if the procedure has an error in it, or you encounter a situation that's not included in the procedure? What about impacts to the level of engagement of the organization? In other words, this is the do what you're told mentality. What about changing our business model? The used to be business is not the way we'll do business going forward. Can you think of any other risk of traditional leadership models? There are many benefits to creating leaders at every level. Engaged employees, employee satisfaction, better decision making, efficient work processes, employee growth and development, Employee suggested improvement opportunities. Are there any risks associated with leaders at every level? The theory behind creating leaders at every level aligns directly with what we want to accomplish as an organization. Traditionally, leadership is about controlling people, and it divided the workforce into two groups, leaders and followers. People who are followers will have an expectation to follow and act as such. The leader-leader model was developed to create leaders at all levels of the organization. It is based on the belief that all of us can be leaders. Some of the benefits of a strong leader-leader culture include organizations being stronger, more profitable, and resilient. The leader-leader model doesn't always rely on the authority figure to be right. So how do we create leaders at every level? We'll talk about these in more detail as we go through the video, but ultimately it comes down to behaviors. A leader's behaviors set the tone for the environment and establish leaders at every level. Leaders get people to think. They push authority to the information. Leaders make people feel safe. Leaders fix the environment, not the people. And leaders ensure their teams have the technical competence and organizational clarity to be successful. Let's look at some key differences between leader-follower and leader-leader. In leader-follower, leaders take control and attract followers. They give orders, they have meetings, and they make inefficient processes efficient. In the leader-leader model, leaders give control and they create leaders. They give intent. They allow others to learn and find solutions. And they eliminate processes that do not add value. Okay, it's time to do a team discussion here and talk about the leader-leader and leader-follower models. What we want to do is reflect on our station or department performance and then answer the following questions as a team. Be specific with your examples. At this time, we want you to pause the video and continue after the team exercise. But remember, take notes. We want you to keep this information for discussion later in the video. The book Turn the Ship Around discusses creating leaders at every level in terms of giving control. Distributing control further into the organization to where the information is yields better decisions and more involved, engaged individuals. The 3 C's are the core of the leader-leader model. The objective is to give employees control over their work and decisions. A foundation must be established through competence and clarity to enable our employees to take control. To give control means engaging people in their work and encouraging them to see, own, and solve problems and improve performance. Control without competence or clarity would equal chaos. We need to ensure we have competent individuals making decisions that are in the best interest of the department, site, and company. Competent means people know what they are doing. Organizational clarity means people know why they're doing it, how it matters, what impact it has, and why they should be doing it a certain way. Let's talk a little more on the 3 C's. We will start with competence. As leaders, we should ensure our folks have the competence they need to make the right decisions. Giving them the training, tools, and resources needed to become competent is very important. We must also ensure that they have the organizational clarity and understand the direction, goal, objective, and expectations. Establish the compelling why. Enroll them in a cause. Give people a compelling reason to work hard on a cause at hand. Tell them why. Here's how fulfilling this expectation will make a big difference for the company and for you personally. Here's how it fits into the big picture. And here's why it should matter to you. Competence and clarity are the 2 pillars that need to be present to successfully distribute decision making. Competence can mean knowledge and skills as well as tools, resources, and relationships. Competence means that people are technically competent to make the decisions they make. It is demonstrated by several key attributes. By taking deliberate intent, which can be used as a tool to avoid autopilot mistakes. We learn. Training is passive. It is done to us. Learning is active and something that we do. Don't brief, certify. We'll talk more about certification shortly. Continually and consistently repeat the message. Specified goals, not methods. Focus on objectives and let our employees engage in finding the best method. Let's go into a little more detail on don't brief, certify. We conduct briefings for so many tasks that we do. However, a briefing is typically a passive activity. When we certify ourselves for a task or evolution, we all prepare and the person in charge asks questions to determine the team's readiness. At the end of a certification, the person in charge will make a decision as to the readiness of the team. If the team isn't ready, the right thing to do is postpone the evolution or task until the team is ready. Using the same leader-follower examples you selected earlier, discuss the following questions and provide details. At this time, pause the video and continue after the team exercise. But remember, take notes and keep this information for discussion later in the video. The other pillar that supports giving control is organizational clarity. It's important that people are making decisions that support the long-term objective and the goal of the organization. Oftentimes, this becomes a communication issue, giving people a compelling why. This also includes ensuring expectations are fully understood and internalized. Clarity is when personnel are equipped with the right purpose, decision-making criteria, and organizational goals. We need to help everyone see the ultimate purpose of our site and fleet goals. We want to achieve excellence, not just avoid errors. We want to be familiar with our errors, but if we continually focus on not making errors, we lose focus on achieving the big picture, which is excellence. We want to build trust and take care of our people because they're the lifeblood of our business. We want to use guiding principles such as Core 4 and the 8 to help us make decisions and carry out our daily work activities. We must use recognition early and often to reinforce the behaviors we are striving for. Begin with the end in mind, which means we have to embrace and practice strategic planning. And lastly, we must encourage a questioning attitude over blind obedience. Earlier, we mentioned that we need to achieve excellence instead of just avoiding errors. It's in our DNA to focus on errors. We report, track, and develop corrective action plans to stop and prevent errors. Our open culture is based on what we did and what we can do better, but sometimes avoiding mistakes becomes our team's focus. Instead, we should be focusing on operational excellence. Not only will this reduce errors, it will help us push to higher levels of performance. Using the same examples you selected earlier, discuss the following questions with your team and provide details. Remember, take notes and keep this information for later on. At this time, pause the video and continue after the team exercise. Another way of thinking about control is increasing the amount of thinking, ownership, and engagement from our people. Our goal is to increase the level and amount of thinking our people are doing. We need their engagement in executing the work, driving performance improvement, and identifying and resolving problems. We need folks taking action without waiting to be told what to do. When we leave the control focused at the top, we deny our folks the opportunity to demonstrate leadership and ownership. Once our employees have demonstrated competence and clarity, it is only then that we can relinquish control to allow them to make decisions. We have to rewrite the genetic code for control. We must change the decision-making authority and push it lower in the organization. We have to act our way to new thinking. As leaders, we need to create an expectation to act or talk in a way that can help generate a new way of thinking. Short, early conversations make efficient work. In other words, don't demand perfection on the first pass. Use touch-up points along the way. Use "I intend to" turn passive leaders into active, engaged leaders. Try not being the one with all the solutions. Resist the urge. Create space for open discussions by the team and cherish dissension. If everyone thinks like you, you don't need them. Eliminate top-down monitoring systems. Don't preach ownership, but implement mechanisms that give ownership. Metrics are the key in making the invisible visible. Avoid senior leaders determining more of what junior workers should be doing. Adherence to processes often become the objective, with focus on avoiding errors. Think out loud. Workers thinking out loud helps their leaders keep their mouths shut and avoid intervention. Leaders thinking out loud imparts context and experience. And last, embrace the inspectors. Don't be a victim. We are in control of our performance. Inspectors can be advocates for what we are doing well and are a great source of info when we need help. "I intend to" is a powerful mechanism for control. It profoundly shifts ownership from the leaders to the workers. It's also an empowering phrase. Here are some disempowered phrases, some of which we use routinely. Request permission to. What should I do about? Do you think we should? Or could we? Instead of asking if you can do, say what you're going to do. Now change these disempowered phrases to empowered phrases. I intend to. I plan on. I will. Clarify verbally why you are ready to do the job, and the boss will just say, very well. All right, it's time for another team discussion. Refer to the list you generated earlier for leader-follower. For each of your examples, discuss the following question as a team. Record your answers and provide details. Keep this information for discussion later on. At this time, pause the video and continue after the team exercise. Our ultimate solution is to move the authority to where the information is. Traditionally, information has to travel to the authority so that decisions can be made. Our goal is to create an environment so that our people are making the right decisions. Don't move information to the authority, but rather move authority to the information. Create an environment for thinking. When we get control, we create leaders. We can use the ladder of leadership to watch our people ascend to the point where we have actively engaged and thinking leaders. Focus on the words and how they shape the environment. There are 3 approaches to help someone level up. First, change the perspective. For example, put them in your seat. Second, fast forward and plant an image of what things would look like 6 months from now. Third, make the change small by talking about a part of a decision. Start with understanding the impact of our language and then practice with more effective word choices. Let's sum up the leader-leader model with the author of Turn the Ship Around, David Marquette.
I was trained for one submarine, my guys were trained to do what they were told. That's a deadly combination. We all know organizations where people just follow the leader into disastrous situations. So I got my guys together and I said, hey, we got a problem here. I was trained for another submarine. You're trained to do whatever nonsense comes out of my mouth. That's right, Captain. I mean, they knew. They already knew. I was pretty much talking to myself. So I said, what are we going to do? What are we going to do, guys? And we talked about it. Okay, what I really wanted to do was get ready for the inspection. But we were sitting in the wardroom. We spent a couple hours. We were talking about it. And we came up with all these different things. And, well, you Captain, you just got to be smarter. You got to give better orders. It's like, well, how am I going to learn a whole nuclear submarine, miles of valves and pipes? I spent a year learning Olympia, 2 weeks over here. So in a year, we'll be safe? That's not going to work. We had to deploy the submarine in 6 months. So we talked about it, and they said, okay, there's only one logical solution. We figured it out. You, they're pointing at me, you shut up. What do you mean? That's not what captains do. That's not what captains of nuclear submarines do. They walk around. They give orders. They sound like Russell Crowe. Head 2/3, dive, make it up 500 feet. Helm left 15 degrees weather, steady course 255. Load torpedoes and tubes 1, 2, 3, and 4. Flood down, open outer doors, right? And I thought about it. And you know what? They were right. So at that point, I vowed never to give another order. And if you came down on my submarine, it would have been very confusing because you couldn't have pointed. It would have been hard to say, well, who's the captain here? Because you wouldn't have seen me giving orders. I did retain one order. The final order to launch a weapon, a torpedo or a missile, I kept with me because I felt that since that was going to result in the deaths of other human beings, that I didn't want that on anyone's conscience but mine. That was my moral and ethical responsibility. But even though everything else, in the Navy, there's long lists of things that says the captain has to authorize. Captain should authorize. You got a couple nukes in your group, they'll tell you it's true. Captain authorize, submerge the ship, get underway, start up the reactor, shut down the reactor, connect to shore power, divorce from shore power. On and on, break rig for dive, on and on and on, pages of these things. I just refused to give those orders. What we replaced it with was intent. Instead of giving instructions, if you want your people to think, don't give instructions, give intent. So they would come to you, hey, what do you want me to do? Well, left full rudder, steady course 255. No. I say, well, what are we trying to accomplish here today? Well, we're trying to get in position so that when the enemy submarine comes through, okay, so where do you think we should position the ship? Maybe over here. Good idea. Go there. You give intent to them, and they give intent to you. So my officer stopped requesting permission. And every other submarine, Captain, request permission to submerge the ship. Submerge the ship. Submerge the ship, aye. On Santa Fe, Captain, I intend to submerge the ship. Very well. And they did it. And it might seem like it's a very small, nuanced change of language, but it was hugely powerful because the psychological ownership now shifts to them. They need to discover the answer. Otherwise, you're always the answer man. You can never go home and eat dinner. And so we started doing this. And it was hugely powerful. Actually, we went another step. Then I got smarter and I said, when the officer said, Captain, I intend to submerge the ship, I would ask him, well, what do you think I'm thinking right now? And he'd look at me, hard to tell. I'm guessing you're wondering whether it's safe. Bingo! I said, well, convince me it's safe. He said, Captain, I intend to submerge the ship. All men are below, hatches are shut, ship's rigged for dive. I checked the bottom depth. The submarine's in the water that's been assigned to us. Then later I would ask them, is it the right thing to do? And they would say, well, yes, sir, because our mission requires that we... And these are the two pillars that I think support this idea of giving control. These are the two pillars that need to be in place. The technical competence, which is represented by, is it safe? And the organizational clarity, which is represented by, is it the right thing to do? And you put those things in place, and then you can give control. And you give control, and you put those things in place. And you are off to the races. So think about what's happening now. My officers are starting to think like me because I have to think like, where should we do the ship? And so the guys below them. Now this took 24 hours to happen. It took a couple years for the full implementation, but immediately there was change. The officers started thinking like me. And so pretty soon I could go in the engine room, find the engine room lower level watch who was taking logs in the lube oil pumps, and he would know what the submarine was doing. He would know whether we were up tight, close to the enemy, and it was time to stay quiet, or whether we had backed out a little bit, and this may be a good time to change filters and make a little bit of noise. A year later, we received another inspection. A year later, we received an inspection. The inspecting team gave us the highest grade they had ever seen. Not that year, not in the Pacific, ever seen. Why? I mean, this crew had a captain who was a dummy. It's because that needle started moving up. And on another submarine, there was one guy in charge, one guy giving orders, one guy thinking, and 134 people doing what they're told. I don't care how smart you are. On my submarine, I got 135 thinking, active, passionate, creative, proactive, taking initiative people. It's a tidal wave. You don't stand a chance. Here's the solution. Move the authority to where the information is. You mean the software engineer can decide whether we ship the software? Yeah. You mean the client, my salesman can close the deal? Well, up to $1,000. No. Yes. Whatever the price? Yes. What does it take to make that happen? Now, if you're picturing a lot of people out there doing crazy things and a bunch of arrows going in a bunch of different directions, you have the wrong picture. You create the environment so that those people are out there making decisions as if the CEO were standing right behind them. And if it's not the same decision, it's actually a better decision because they have the information. And not only will you get better speed of execution, because now you don't have this delay, what happens is those people feel like they matter because they're thinking. You engender thinking. You create the environment for thinking. The secret is nothing I said is hard. There's nothing hard. The only thing that's hard is you. It will feel wrong. You've been genetically and culturally programmed to take charge and make it happen. Take control and attract followers. And what you want is to give control and create leaders. It will feel wrong, and you will repeatedly start down this path if you so choose, and then you'll be angry at yourself like I was. And you will have a failure, and you'll go back to the old ways. And you will pick yourself up, and you will go again. You will go again. And by doing so, you will achieve the greatest thing possible. You will have achieved greatness, not because of the deeds and acts that you did, but because you set an environment where the people around you and their families and their schools and their organizations and their businesses, they've achieved greatness. That will be the greatest thing of all. Go forth and be great.
To support your team meetings and continued reinforcement of the leader-leader model, we've created a Teams page which contains videos and materials that you and your team may use. Thanks for your attendance today. Please ensure you take what you've learned today and share with your teams. If we embrace the leader-leader model, we can make a difference, improve our performance, and continue our journey to excellence. Thanks, and have a great day.